I'm Brai Tate, joined by Matt Kaufman.
You're listening to 88.9 WQSU The Pulse. I'm Brai Tate, joined by Matt Kaufman.
WQSU is proud to present the PA Pigskin Preview, WQSU's live sports talk show produced exclusively by Susquehanna University communication students. Tonight, we'll preview local high school and college football games live from Buffalo Wild Wings. Right now, it's the WQSU Sports Corner.
Tonight I'm joined by Matt Kaufman, and tonight's PA Pigskin Preview we have
Again,
Shikellamy
you're
High School
listening
head
to
coach Mike
88.9
Hoover,
WQSU The Pulse. I'm Brai Tate, and tonight I'm joined by Matt Kaufman. And tonight's PA Pigskin Preview, we have Shikellamy High School head coach Mike Hoover, followed by daily item reporter Todd Hummel, and then Susquehanna.
Mike Hoover, thank you for joining me tonight.
Hey, thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
So, you were here last year when we did this, and last time we talked, you were the interim head coach or interim coach, but before that, you were an assistant coach at Shik. So, you knew this team, you knew these players, but since being hired as head coach, does that title, interim being removed, make it any different for you, and how does it help you kind of establish your own team?
You know, so last year when I came in here, I was, I think, 3 days on the job as an interim head coach, something like that. It was right after the Jersey Shore game. But moving into this, into the head coach regime here, I think 3 days on the job as an interim head coach, something like that. It was right after the Jersey Shore game. But moving into this, into the head coach regime here, it's been a process. It's been a lot of changes and stuff. Pretty much primarily with the players and mindset and the culture of the program. The community has been wonderful. They've been a great support. But the players need to buy in to what we're trying to teach them and that never die, never quit attitude. And they've, quite frankly, they've bought in. It's been exciting for the last, it's been a lot of work, but it's been a heck of a lot of fun.
So that never quit attitude, would you say that's kind of the biggest lesson you're trying to teach to your players?
Yeah, because I mean, I think it was, it's even like this a long, long time ago, but the old regime was once Shikellamy got down, they just kind of caved in and went down. But the mindset now is it don't matter what we're faced up against. We go into every game that we can win every single game. We don't care. Adversity is part of the game. Quite frankly, it's going to happen. Momentum shifts all game. But we keep battling through that, and we play 4 quarters. And quite frankly, if you could tell me at the end of 4 quarters you gave me everything you had, we're going to come up on the better end of the stick if that's the case. If you could tell me you gave me 4 quarters of everything you had, we're going to come up on the top side more than the bottom side. So.
And we talked about how you didn't, I don't want to say have this team last year. You weren't the head coach of this team for all of last year. You kind of stepped into that role. But the team was 1-9 last year. Obviously not the prettiest record, but still put up some pretty good offensive numbers with Brody Rebuck making his second 1,000-yard passing season and only graduating 6 seniors, having most of that team. What did you take from those positives last year and communicate to your players to make better in the off season and the preseason?
We got right to work. I mean, we were right in the weight room at the end of the season. We had to get stronger. That was first and foremost in the off season. We had to get stronger, but we did, like you said, we had 6 seniors only go. We had a lot of depth returning to this season, but to get that done, you just can't hang out and not do anything about it. We hit the weight room hard. Beginning the end of March, we were doing field workouts and stuff like that, and the kids were ready to go. But we brought in 16 freshmen in who had a successful 8th grade year, and they're chipping in and they're getting some work done for us too. And whether it's JV or getting some varsity reps, but they're giving us some good looks at practice. And the same goes with them sophomores and them juniors too. I mean, we just have a good team morale right now. Everybody's bought in. And you know, it's been great. I mean, we got off to a good start. We started off 2-0. We went into weeks 3, 4, and 5. We knew that was the toughest of the schedule. I mean, week 3 we played the 4A district champs from last year. Week 4 we played the 6A district champs in Williamsport, and then just this past week we played the runner-up in 4A last year. So that was a tough run. I mean, getting out of that healthy was the key. We suffered in the beginning of the year here. In week 2, we had a big injury. A two-way starter, Noah Johnson, go down for the year. And then in week 3, we had another injury with Baizir Baez going down for the year. So the last 2 weeks, we've gotten out of that. We got a running back coming back for us, Gavin Kiefer, who went out in week 1. He's returning this week, so I'm excited for that. But moving, like you asked me about Brody Raybuck, he has been so on point this year. He's been incredible for us on both sides of the ball. This is his first year playing defense, and he's doing exceptional over there. But he's throwing the ball well and doing good stuff for us. So,
and we'll get into talking about Brody later, and also that young team. I remember we talked about that last year, and still kind of a younger team this year. But like you mentioned, started out wins against Milton and Lewisburg, and then fell to Shamokin, and followed that with a win against Williamsport, and then last Friday was a loss to Jersey Shore. What did you guys learn from any of these games?
You know, the big thing, like week 3 going into, we played Shamokin at home, and the guys knew going into that game, that you couldn't make mistakes. I mean, they're a dang good football team. Everybody knows that. And if we made too many mistakes, it was going to be hard to dig ourselves out of that, and that's quite frankly what happened. But, I mean, we kept fighting, and we were still in it. 4 interceptions later, and we were still fighting in that game. But to rebound and come back in week 4 and knock off Williamsport like that, and we got off to a sluggish start, and then the guys just picked it up, and we totally just dominated that second half of that game. Moving to last week with Jersey Shore, again, minimal mistakes. You can't make mistakes against a good football team like Jersey Shore. I think that, we played great defense in the first half. I mean, they were struggling to run their set plays that they run. I mean, we were playing phenomenal defense. Offense, we couldn't really get it going. They play that pressure defense that's tough to get any offense going for most teams. But I think, they outconditioned us at the end. They go fast, and they kind of wore us down, and got the best of us there. And but, if we see them again, I'm hoping we do, and we'll be ready to go. So, Yep.
And we'll get into that offense. The senior quarterback, Brody Raybuck, he, like I said earlier, 2 straight 1,000-yard passing seasons. This year he's at 682 passing yards. He has 6 touchdowns through the air and 263 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns on the ground. How confident are you in his abilities to lead this offense?
This is, he got hurt his freshman year, so this is now his 3rd year there as a starter. And he's just a dual-threat athlete. I mean, if you need a yard, he's getting you a yard. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I think you've seen that in week 2 at Lewisburg up there at Bucknell. He punched it in there for us. But, and he'll say the same thing. The credit goes to the offensive line. I mean, those guys, they have been working their tails off and communicating and making sure that line is ready to go. And like I said, we had an injury in week 2 in that Lewisburg game, knocked one of our offensive linemen out. It was a little hairy there for a split, but, somebody plugged in there, got a new guy in, and I feel like they're starting to come back together now. But, first and foremost, for Brody to be able to throw, for Brody to be able to run, he's got to have 5 guys in front of him that are willing to block for him and get the job done. And I'm really proud of those guys, so, yes.
Yeah, definitely. We'll stay with Brody here. He also plays on the defense. He has 31 tackles, 8 for loss, and 2 sacks. What kind of example does Brody set for younger players, being willing to play both sides and playing gritty?
It's his work ethic. His work ethic has always been the same. I mean, he's a hard worker. He doesn't complain. there's times where I'll say, hey, on defense, you did this wrong, and quite frankly, it wasn't his fault. I relook at it, and he doesn't say a word back to me and say, like, Coach, you're wrong. He just accepts it. That's the type of ball player he is. He's just a tough-nosed kid to have on defense that every player on our team should look up to be the best they can be. But he does. He leads that defense in the middle. Has been a juggling act for the last 3 years with him, kind of trying to figure out where we could put him defensively. And by default this year, he's inside there, and he's doing a phenomenal job in there.
And then we'll go back to offense. So you have 2 backup quarterbacks that have played so far, junior Corbin Stahl and sophomore Brady Kurtz. How important is it to get the younger players time to develop and time on the playing field?
Yeah, so going back, I didn't even remember Corbin being in there, actually.
Oh, really?
So,
it was listed on Max Preps, so you have to take that, Max Preps with a grain of salt.
I'm trying to think, it might have been an extra point block and maybe throw it.
Okay.
But Kurtzy, he's been backing him up. He's been playing in JV games and stuff like that and getting prepared, and he's been having a phenomenal JV games this year. Like he's playing some lights out football there. His vision down the field and the scramble is unreal. But he's leading the offense there. He's getting some reps in and getting behind there. And we also have the freshman Bobby Felmy, who's another. He's a gadget player, I call him. He's quarterback. He can play receiver. I mean, if you look at the stats then for receiving, I mean he's in that receiving core as well, and he's dynamic out there at receiver. I mean, he's incredible for a freshman. So,
and speaking of receivers, I have listed on here junior receiver Thomas Pollock. He has 23 receptions, 400 yards, 5 touchdowns. The offense has kind of led more into passing. Do you feel like that's your identity as an offense, the passing, or do you think the run will develop a little more as the season goes on?
So right now you're right. Our identity is leaning towards the passing, but on the big, the kicker on this is we need to develop the run game a little more if we want to be, in the postseason here, if we want to keep teams guessing. You don't want to have teams, Bracken and Thomas and taking away that. But, if they do, that opens up Corbin Stahl, Charlie Walter, that opens up Bobby Felmy if they bracket. But getting back to your initial question, we need to establish a little more run game to be mixed more so that teams aren't thinking, oh, it's Shikellamy and we're going to throw the ball here. But we're working on that and getting a run game. I think it's a big help with Gavin back this week, Kiefer. We have back there Mikey Vader's back there, Tristan Smith, who's a freshman, and senior Luke Keeley back there as well. So we got 4 good backs. We just got to, plug away and get some holes and let them run to daylight, So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So now going to defense, you mentioned Corbin Stahl. He has 39 tackles and 1 interception. Senior defensive end Bryce Broombaugh, 27 tackles, 3.5 for loss, 2 sacks. Senior Brody Reebok, 31 tackles, 8 for loss. Or I guess we already talked about him. You're whatever. But just to list a couple, what have you liked about your defense so far?
So last year we ran a 3-5. We switched over to the 4-4. When I first started coaching, I was involved in the 4-4. And then my last 5 years I ran with the 3-5, and now I'm back to the 4-4. And there's pros and cons for each of them. But, I thought at the beginning of this year, I thought we started off just a tad sluggish, weeks 1, 2, partly 3. But I will tell you the last 2 weeks we've stepped it up defensively. We're starting to play some real good football. I didn't think we were tackling well in the beginning of the season. Just weren't getting things done that you need to get to have a good defense. But the last 2 weeks we're getting to the ball. We're causing turnovers. We're covering well down the field. But we have some, we moved, one of our outside backers, Chase Swartz, he moved down to defensive end, and he's starting to learn it and get it. Bryce Broombaugh down there, who you mentioned, he's one of our tackles. But Corbin plays a heck of a safety. He comes downhill hard. And each week we put our corners in a bind. We tell them, hey, you're manning up. We think you're better than the receivers. And that's, Maddox Hoover and Mikey Vaders have done a phenomenal job at manning up out there at corner. So, but inside backers, though, Brody and Willie, they're the forefront there in the middle, making the calls and stuff like that for the defensive linemen to get down and go. And One of another guy just won last, Jackson Kashuba, he was playing D tackle. We move him out to D end. Kind of similar, but different responsibilities. And the guys are they're buying in and they're getting it done. So.
And then we'll switch over to kicking. So you have a sophomore kicker, Ryan DePhillips. He's 6 for 7 on extra points and 1 for 2 for field goals. He's also a soccer player. What does it say about Ryan being able to contribute to both soccer and football during the fall?
Yeah, he's now a sophomore. He's probably, we have a lot of most improved players on the football team, but by far he's definitely improved his kicking game from his freshman year to sophomore year. He works so hard in the offseason that, it's close. He's getting that kickoff almost into the end zone every time. He's got it down to about the 5 right now, between the 5 and the 10. So, but his field goals and stuff like that, I have all the trust in the world in him. It's kind of funny. I go up to him. We'll be in semi-field goal range, and he's totally up front with me. This or, we have this, and he'll tell me, yes, coach, I got it, or no, I don't think it's a little too deep. But I got that much trust in this kid. So, but he's a good kid, good soccer, good football player. So
great. And we'll round out tonight with which players or position groups have you seen the most growth, and where do you see the biggest opportunity for improvement from your team? Which we did kind of talk about that, the run game a little bit and just cleaning up, but what do you?
As far as player-wise, you mean specific players or general? I have a lot of faith in the freshman class. There's 16 of them on this roster right now, and I have a lot of faith in them that they are getting prepared in practice and into getting ready to prepare for varsity games. We got 55 on the roster. I'll just go through it here. We got 16 ninth graders, 12 10th graders, 15 juniors, and 12 seniors this year. So what we got to look at is those 12 seniors are going to be leaving here, and hopefully after week 10, hopefully. So we got to be prepared to get these other guys in progression and get them ready to play some football on Friday nights. So these JV reps and stuff like that is vitally important for them. But there's a lot of good freshmen in there. There's a lot of good freshman class in there. But looking ahead here for the team, is that what you're asking me?
Yeah.
Like the team moving forward. Like I said, we got to develop more of the run game, kind of have a combination of is Schick passing or are they running here? But just keep doing what we're doing. It's like I told him tonight. I tell him this probably practically every night after practice. I'm like, our job as coaches is to scheme the opponent. That's our job. That's our homework. We scheme the game plan. We tell you who's the better players, who to look for, what to look for. But the player's job is to take that information in. But quite frankly, at the end of the day, we need to worry about what we do right. We don't need to look at the opponent and what they're going to do necessarily like that. That's our coach's job. The players need to worry about themselves and how they conduct themselves in a game. And if we do all the fundamental things right, I think we're on the right track here at Shikellamy. I really do. We just need to worry about ourselves, eliminate turnovers. Eliminate penalties and stuff like that and focus on what we need to do and get our job done. But yeah, I think we're moving forward in the right direction. I'm really, really happy here. I think the guys are doing a great job. I'm really proud of them, and I hope they keep up. I do expect them to keep up the good work.
All right, well, I wish you the best of luck on Friday versus Central Mountain, and the best of luck
Wise Markets, with locations throughout the valley and online at wisemarkets.com. The Selinsgrove store is located on Route 522. Wise Markets is proud to support 88.9 WQSU.
You're in the middle of the WQSU Pigskin Preview, live from Buffalo Wild Wings.
You're listening to 88.9 WQSU. I'm Brai, and I'm joined by Matt Kaufman tonight, and we just had the Shikellamy High School head coach Mike Hoover on, and now we have Daily Item reporter Todd Hummel. How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
I'm all right. So last week you mentioned that you went to Selinsgrove to watch your daughter sing the national anthem, not play the national anthem. But Selinsgrove lost to Williamsport 29-23. What did you think of this game?
Oh, man, it was such a heartbreaker for Selinsgrove because they led by 2 scores. They had done a lot of things so well. Brett Rice ran for 244 yards. They had really controlled the clock, but they just had a really hard time containing the quarterback run by Williamsport. Tevin Williams ran for 2 touchdowns to give Williamsport the lead, and then had a 35-yard interception return for a touchdown to kind of clinch the game for them late. And it's a real disappointing loss for Selinsgrove. It's going to be, they got a tough one this week with Shamokin coming up, so it's going to be tough for them to bounce back. But it was a good game. It's just a disappointing result for the Seals.
And then so if you're new to PA Pigskin Preview, every week I ask Todd some different matchups from District 4, and he picks who he thinks is going to win. So last week he went 4-2 on his predictions. We'll start with the Class 1A matchup, Montgomery versus Canton. You picked Montgomery, and Montgomery won 54-0. You got this one right. What do you think about this game?
Well, I think Montgomery is probably, you take out Lime Mountain, Montgomery or Muncie is probably going to win the Class A title if Lime Mountain doesn't do it. I believe their only loss right now is to a close one to Warrior Run in the second week of the season, and they're one of those teams that if they get the right group of kids together and the right class in a small school, they play real well, and they just happen to have that group right now.
And then the next matchup you got incorrect. It was the Class 2A matchup, Wellsboro versus Cowanesque Valley. You picked Cowanesque Valley, and Wellsboro won 37-15.
Yeah, Wellsboro's playing better since they started the season 0-2. They had a lot of trouble with Montoursville in their opener, and they played well in this one. And Cowanesque Valley, that's another small school in the western part of the district that played well early in the season, but just had some trouble with Wellsboro on Friday night.
And then the next matchup I gave you was another Class 2A matchup, Wyalusing Valley versus South Williamsport. You got this one correct, and you picked South Williamsport, and they won 55-0.
Yeah, South Williamsport, like I said last week, is probably not quite what they were the last couple of years, but, the top of 2A is so good right now between, that Southern Columbia, Warrior Run, Troy. It's tough for a team like Wyalusing or South Williamsport kind of to break through in that 2A thing, but they're competitive in their division of the Northern Tier, and they're probably the best team in that division other than Troy.
The next matchup was Hughesville versus Midwest, and you picked Midwest, but Hughesville won 18-7.
Yeah, that one was a struggle for both teams, actually. Hughesville had the ball 7 times, I think, in the first half in Midwest territory and couldn't score, and Midwest didn't have a first down until the fourth quarter. The Mustangs defense played so well. They just couldn't get enough offense to kind of pull away from the Spartans, and the Spartans got, I think, the only touchdown, the actual offensive touchdown in the game was a quarterback sneak late to clinch it for Hughesville.
And then Class 3A, Danville versus Milton. You picked Danville, and Danville won 28-17.
Yeah, that one, Monty Fisher of Milton ran for 204 yards, I think, against the Ironmen. And Milton had the lead going into the fourth quarter, but Danville rallied in the fourth quarter. And again, for the Ironmen, it's just finding some things that they do well offensively. And, they've gotten the ball to Landon Kehoe over the last couple weeks. And Carter Rout moved over to quarterback in week 2. And he's gotten better each week as they go on, as he's gotten more comfortable.
And then the last matchup I gave you was the Class 4A, Shikellamy versus Jersey Shore. You picked Jersey Shore, and they won 42-14.
Yeah, and this one was, I had said earlier, I had said last week, and I think I said it on our Daily Item podcast as well, that this was, kind of a measuring stick of where Shikellamy was at this point in the season. And, they played well for a half, and we talked last week about how good Nolan Pauling is and moving around at quarterback, and Bo Seacrest is a real good running back. And, that just the way that this is shaken out, I don't think it's going to be Shikellamy only trip to Jersey Shore this year either.
Okay, and then we'll get into this week. So to start off, I have a Class 1A matchup, Montgomery versus Muncie. They are both 4-1. Who do you like?
Well, this is probably a battle for who ends up being the number 2 seed behind Lime Mountain, later on this year in the Class A playoffs. Muncie's won 4 in a row since losing that opener to Warrior Run. They seem to have adjusted. Their new coach is Chris Persing, who was a quarterback at Shikellamy back in the 90s. And, they're playing well right now. But like I said, I think Montgomery's probably the second best team in Class A right now. And this is a rivalry game. So this is going to be a physical battle, I would assume. But I think Montgomery gets this one.
And then Class 2A matchup, Warrior Run versus North Penn Mansfield. They are also both 4-1.
So North Penn Mansfield's known usually for passing in the ball, but this season they moved their receiver Luke Kreger over. He's up over 500 yards rushing. They did get blown out by Athens, a 4A program, last week. It's a strange one. Both teams are 4-1, but Warrior Run went up there and hung 70 on this team last year, and Warrior Run played pretty well last week. I think Warrior Run gets this one. I don't think it's near as bad as last year, but Warrior Run's big issue is turnovers. They blew out to a 21-0 lead against Lewisburg last week, and then let them back in it with losing 4 fumbles, and had to stop a quarterback sneak at the with about 10 seconds left to win the game. So they got to get their turnovers straightened out, but I do like the defenders in this one.
And then Jersey Shore versus Williamsport. Again, all these teams so far are 4-1. So give you that.
I saw Williamsport last week. I'm not sure how well they match up with this Jersey Shore team. Jersey Shore is playing real well right now. They hung in. There was at one point lost to Shamokin 2 weeks ago, and they did a real good job in the second half last week against Shikellamy. I think their running game is probably too much for Williamsport. The Millionaires really struggled stopping Selinsgrove's running game, and Jersey Shore runs the ball better than Selinsgrove does. So I think Shore gets this one.
And then our final matchup, who do you like between Danville, they are 3-2, and Southern Columbia, they're 4-1?
Well, I said earlier, Danville's found some things that they do well between getting the ball into Landon Kehoe's hands and Carter Raup, playing well at quarterback. But right now, Southern Columbia, since that first week of the season where they got blown out by Wyomissing, who turns out who's up to number 4 or 5 in the state in 4A, and they're still 5-0. The Tigers have played real well. It's kind of a different Southern Columbia team. I think I counted it up last night. 10 different kids have at least 2 touchdowns for the Tigers this season. They're real balanced. I like Southern Columbia in this one. Danville's playing better, but I just think right now Southern Columbia is the better football team.
Okay. And I remember we talked last year about them having that struggle year a little bit last year and bouncing back a little bit. But what game are you covering this week?
I am actually going up to Loyalsock for Loyalsock and Lewisburg this week, just because we needed some place for people to fill in some holes, and I think I'm doing it for every local newspaper, so it gets covered. So that's where I'm headed.
All right. Well, that was quick. We speed ran through that, it felt like.
Pickup too. For more information, call 473-1122. Quality Print Shop in Northumberland is proud to support WQSU.
You're in the middle of the WQSU Pigskin Preview, live from Buffalo Wild Wings.
You're listening to 88.9 WQSU. I'm Brai, and tonight with me is Matt Kaufman, and we just had Shikellamy High School head coach, and then we had Daily Item reporter Todd Hummel, but now we have Susquehanna running back Rahshan La Mons. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And Matt, take it away.
Rahshan, it seems like every time we meet, you continue to break record after record at Susquehanna in the run game, receiving game. It seems like you've continued to have some big games lately as well. Let's kind of recap last year a little bit, averaging 6 yards a carry. What is it about being so efficient for the Susquehanna offense?
I think majority of the time it's just the coaches putting me in the right spot. I mean, it's hard, of course, in the conference that we play in, and also we're a national competitive team, so to kind of put us in the right spots to be successful, I feel like our coaches do very well of that. And then I think last year our offensive line, even now, they take pride in, of course, that 6 yards per carry. So I think having them take more pride in that than me is what allows me to be successful and productive.
Now, how would you say you balance your patience as a runner? Because, again, you got to be patient to find the hole. How do you wait at being so excited? We saw the emotion you had this Saturday against Johns Hopkins. So how would you say your patience level is waiting to find those holes?
I feel like it builds up as I've been playing football, of course, all my life. It's a maturity level in the game. I think there's times where, of course, there's time for you to be fast and physical, and there's also times for you to break the game down and slow the game down and let things come to you. And I feel like as I grow and build the relationship with my offensive line, you start being able to realize their strong suits and what they're good at, and sometimes you need to give them time to reach the blocks that they need to. So kind of setting the defense up to not make that sudden move and give them a chance to get to where they need to go. I feel like it just comes with maturity of the game.
Now, last year you carried the ball 248 times, over 1,600 yards, 18 touchdowns. What does that say about your workload, but also about your preparation, your durability throughout the season?
That the coaches put a lot into me, that they trust me a lot, and if we need something, that I'm that spark that they need, and then I kind of just take over the game and then do what I'm asked. And as I said, they put me in the right position, so I never question anything that they asked me to do. And of course, go out there and we're successful. And then as you see last year, it just stacked on top of each other.
Now, you kind of mentioned a little bit about keeping the defense off balance. Let's talk about that. Averaging about 118 rush yards a game. Defense is kind of new. They knew you were going to be there. They knew you were going to start. How do you keep the defenses off balance and kind of keep them guessing of, are you going left? Are you going right? Are you going to spin? What are you going to do?
Just like they study me, I study them. So kind of breaking down, as I said, slowing down the game. Of course, maturity of the game, everything comes. So, of course, breaking down the backers, read steps, what they like to do, tendencies of the D-line, tendencies of the safeties, things like that. Kind of like being able to not necessarily contradict, but like be able to make them go based off of me, and then kind of just breaking them down and going from there.
Now, you were able to get the ability to be a starter your first week of the season last year as a freshman. What did that mean to you, and kind of how did that show that this team did trust your abilities to be successful here?
I think personally it kind of gave me that confidence booster that I'm supposed to be here. Like, this is the team that I'm supposed to be playing for. This is the team that trusted me. This is the team that believes in me. And for them to kind of just take me under the wing and kind of just throw me in the fire and be like, no, you're going to be okay, I think that meant more to me than it did for starting myself. I think they held me to a higher standard than I thought I was at, and I just had to go out there and just play the football that I knew.
Now let's go into this year. We know you missed the first couple of weeks with the injury. What was the hardest part, you think, to sitting on the sidelines watching the other guys play?
The energy level. It's always good to be out there on the field, and you get the energy from the field, just almost having the team right there in your face. I mean, of course, on the sideline, they come to the sideline, they get to celebrate with you. But it's just different when you're out there and you're playing and you get to feel the vibe and you get to, of course, change the energy, sometimes be the spark that the team needs. I think that's what I was missing the most. And then, of course, I put everything into them and they put everything into me, so kind of like not be able to give that back to them. The first 2 games was kind of like, nah, whatever. But
Now, we saw that energy boost a little bit with a couple of big runs that you broke for last week against Johns Hopkins. Does that kind of energy bring the team, not I wouldn't say back to life, but kind of give them like that spark where you're in a game like that where you're trailing, you just need that boost? Because you guys came out for a couple of drives and looked like a brand new football team.
Yeah, I think sometimes the energy's there and sometimes it's not, but I feel like sometimes when it's a dull moment, sometimes you just need to see somebody having fun. You just need to see somebody having energy. You just need to see somebody that looks like they want to be there. And I think sometimes that turns their head and like, okay, like, no, we're supposed to be here too. So I feel like the energy, that was my goal coming back. Of course, in a big game, we have a young team. So it was kind of just bring that energy, like show them like you've been playing football all your life. It's the same game. It's just at a different level. So I just wanted to show them that, like, it's okay to have fun. Even when you're losing, you're still playing football. It's okay to have fun and bring energy. So
now, since returning, you picked up really right where you left off, like we mentioned a moment ago. What does that say about you as a character of this football team and the way that you prepare and the way that you rehab throughout the injury?
That when I come back, I'm going to give them everything I got. And as long as they do the same, we'll let the results handle themselves.
All right, so we got our new segment, Susquehanna Speed Run. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions, rapid fire. You're going to give me whatever you're thinking. All right, you ready? We're going to start with favorite NFL running back growing up.
Barry Sanders.
Go-to pregame meal.
Cinnamon Pop-Tart.
Better feeling, breaking a long run or scoring a goal line touchdown?
Breaking a long run.
Music you listen to before kickoff?
R&B music. Anything R&B, anything Chris Brown.
Favorite Susquehanna football memory so far?
Dom kicking the game-winning field goal at St. John's.
If you weren't playing running back, what position would you be playing? And if you're playing football, if not, what sport would you be playing?
Ooh, position? I think I want to play defense. I like to play strong safety. And then sport, lacrosse. That's like my second love.
What's more exciting, a 96-yard touchdown run by yourself or watching one of your offensive linemen pancake block?
I think, to be honest, offensive lineman pancake blocking, because without them, I don't get there. So,
cleats that you swear by, no matter what, you got them on your feet game day.
360 Vapor Untouchables.
One word your teammates would use to describe your playing style.
Crafty.
All right, last one. Do your teammates have any nicknames for you?
Oh, my God. I can't say that on this show.
That's a good idea. Rahshan, thank you so much for joining us. Brai?
I hope you can go get a cinnamon Pop-Tart this weekend.
Yeah,
Very nutritious.
Yeah, I need that.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and good luck this weekend. Cheerleaders can't make the trip
You're in the middle of the WQSU Pigskin Preview, live from Buffalo Wild Wings.
You're listening to 88.9 WQSU. I'm Brai, and tonight we had, I just blanked there. Shikellamy High School head coach Mike Hoover, and then we had Daily Item reporter Todd Hummel, and Matt just finished his interview with Susquehanna running back Rahshan La Mons. And now we are going to our roundtable with Adam. So we're going to cover the Steelers, Eagles, Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, and some Penn State. So we're going to start with last Sunday. The Steelers played the Patriots, and the Steelers won 21-14.
I think it was actually a quite surprising game for the Steelers. I felt like New England had a chance in this game. You look at it, 5 turnovers by New England in this game. That's in a one-score game. To be in a one-score game, turn the ball over 5 times is pretty insane. I think Pittsburgh, again, they showed that they can win the close football games, but they really, with 5 turnovers, you should have beaten New England at least by 3 more scores. I feel like whether it was Rodgers, whether it was the play calling, they just couldn't get it going offensively, it seemed like. But for New England have 5 turnovers. Drake May had 1 of them, or 2 of them, I believe. You got to find a way to not turn the ball over. And going back to what Mike McDaniel, the Miami Dolphins, said, if you're going to win, you got to win games. You can't win games, again, like we said last week with the Dolphins, by turning the football over. So I think New England should have won this game if they didn't turn the ball over 5 times.
To win, you have to win.
Absolutely. Absolutely, for sure. That's one thing Aaron Rodgers alluded to when he was being interviewed post-game. We can't have our defense carry us every single time down the stretch. The offense has got to be able to make plays, and New England made more plays on offense, and they didn't win the game, resulting in what Pittsburgh's defense did down the stretch and really helping them win this. Really for a game for both teams that they really had to win to try to stay above 500 to start out, get off to a hot start this season. So for Pittsburgh, especially after losing to Seattle last week in a game that you should have won, this is a big win for them. But with their defense doing a spectacular job down the stretch, the offense, even like I just said, Aaron Rodgers said it himself, they got to do a lot better in the upcoming weeks.
And I think that was a lot of the Steelers' problem last year, of course, like the defense kind of winning the games that they did win and the offense lacking. But we will go into the Eagles and Rams. This was a close game.
Yeah, there's a lot to kind of dissect to this game, and I know there's a lot of Eagles fans that listen to this show, and we have one standing in front of us, our IT guy, Harrison, who sets us up every week. But this Eagles team trailed 26-7 at one point in this game. The Rams just let them back in the game, and you can't do that. You can't continue, whether your defense continued to commit the penalties downfield. Jalen Hurts finally threw a touchdown pass this week. So for Philadelphia to be down 26-7 at one point in this game, to come back, you get the block punt by Jalen Carter earlier in the third quarter, and then you get Jordan Davis to block the Joshua Carty game-winning field goal, which, by the way, the fastest run back by a player over 330 pounds. He ran it at exactly 18.59 miles per hour to the end zone after block. That's after he blocked the kick, by the way. He still blocked it, and then he ran it back. So you got to give credit to where credit's due on that Eagles front, blocking the 2 field goals. But for the L.A. Rams, this is a game you should have won. This is a game you should have won comfortably at the point of being 26-7. Matthew Stafford, it seemed like they were getting something going on that last drive, and Stafford hits Nacua. It seemed like a missed call on that play down the sideline to Nacua. Could have said it was an overthrown ball, whatever. But for this team of the Rams to go down the field, have that opportunity, and then your kick gets blocked, it's a gut punch for real.
I mean, it seemed like the weekend of block kicks throughout the NFL. I mean, and this game was the perfect example of it, like you just said, Matt, with Philadelphia being down in the third quarter and just finding a way to rally back and seeing. There was a lot of positives out of this game, especially for Jalen Hurts, like you mentioned, throwing his first touchdown pass of the season. But the defense and special teams, you got to give a lot of credit to them for fighting back in this game against a team that really had them on the ropes, down 26-7 in the third quarter, and they came back and rallied and somehow, some way, in a Philadelphia miracle, are able to win this game behind that big return by Jordan Davis.
And I saw that stat too. I thought it was funny. I guess they started tracking speeds in 2019, and that was the fastest since they started tracking speeds. And then last night, Monday Night Football, the Detroit Tigers won 38 to the Ravens 30.
This was a phenomenal game. This really was one of the best games I think we've seen. And I feel like also this is when you look at games throughout the year and you look at the schedule when they come out of which games are going to, you kind of tell what games are going to be blowouts or could potentially be blowouts, the games that could be really good football games. This is a game that a lot of people predicted to be a Super Bowl matchup potentially from last year with the way that Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions played and then the way that Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens played the season ago. But this is the most, I feel like, even matchup we've seen between two football teams really in the last, I'd say, 3 to 4 years. Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, that kind of crew, and then you have Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and Zay Flowers. Mark Andrews really had that game that I feel like he needed to have. He's been struggling to start the season, but Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, 2 touchdowns each. I mean, just alone to have that capability to have your run game be so successful and then have guys like Sam Laporta, have guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's such a key weapon for Dan Campbell, and no wonder why the guy goes for it pretty much no matter what on 4th down, because when you got the two-headed monster in the backfield and then you got Laporta and St. Brown, you got a pretty good chance to get a conversion.
And the surprise from a lot of the things that Dan Campbell did, he really opened up the playbook, especially with plays like the flea flick back to Jared Goff to make the big throws. And there was also the shuffle pass for the Gibbs touchdown as well with St. Brown on the handoff. So there was a lot of plays like that really put them over the edge. And then for Baltimore, a lot of mistakes. Like it was, of course, when it was the fumble when Derrick Henry had the ball on the rush, and really just saw him frustrated after just noticing those crucial mistakes that the Ravens really made. And really, they were in this game through much of it, through this back and forth affair, but Detroit just opened up the playbook and played a very good football game, and they're off to a good start this season, and the Ravens are back at 1-2 now, just trying to find their footing in next week.
2 things. One, they're kind of like the Kansas City Chiefs right now, 1-2. They got the win Sunday night. But to go back to this, the Ravens had just 1 turnover in this game, and I feel like that 1 turnover, that Derrick Henry fumble, was a key one late in the 4th quarter, and then you got to credit the Detroit Lions. A lot of people didn't know what it was going to be like offensively with Ben Johnson leaving to go into the Chicago Bears, Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator, going over to the Jets. Yeah, the defense gave up a good amount of points, but still, the way that your offense has continued to play, besides that Week 1 game against the Packers, but to have a 98-yard touchdown drive and then a 96-yard touchdown drive, those are really key parts of this win for the Detroit Lions. And then really on that game-sealing drive, it seemed like when David Montgomery was able to break one for 31 yards. This offense, it seems like they've started to click.
And then I don't know that this Thursday night football of a game is going to be as good as Monday, but we have the Seahawks at Cardinals. What do we think?
I think I don't know if it's going to be as good as the Monday night game for sure, but I feel like this could definitely be one of those surprising Thursday night games where we see Seattle kind of break out of what has been a kind of interesting start to the year, and to see the Arizona Cardinals kind of do the same with Kyler Murray. They're going to be without James Conner, I believe, for the rest of the season as he got hurt on Sunday. But for both of these teams, really, this is a week where you go into the preparation, you go into practice, and it means a little more. You're heading into the 4th week of the season now where you really need to tone in on the fundamentals of football. You can't turn the ball over. Sam Darnold, one of the problems last year, we saw it in Week 18 against the Detroit Lions, opportunities inside the red zone, not being able to capitalize in red zone opportunities. And same thing really for the Cardinals. Now you're going to be without James Conner, which is a key piece to your red zone opportunities. To be without him and to have Sam Darnold struggle, I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of field goals kicked in this game, but I expect Jackson Smith and Jigma to have a good game. I also expect Marvin Harrison Jr. to be a little bit more involved this week without James Conner being in the lineup for Arizona.
So, yeah, the big thing, like you just said, looking for Kyler Murray to throw up the ball a lot more is going to be a big thing. But the question for Arizona and their offense is going to be, how are they going to try to stay balanced with their running back room looking a little bit different this week with James Conner out for the season? So the question is, who's going to be the guy in the running back room for Arizona that's going to step up? And you see what Seattle has brought to the table, of course, coming off of their win last week against Pittsburgh. But now with them coming in here in Week 4, I think the question here is going to be what can they do, especially on the offensive side with their receivers, like you said, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Cooper Kupp as well. So getting a lot of those guys involved is going to be huge for this game. And this game might be a silver. You might not see many touchdowns like Matt was just alluding to, but I would expect Seattle to pull away in this one, I think.
And I would just like to bring your attention to the TV over there. The White Sox are now leading the Yankees 2-1.
Yes, thank you for that, Brai.
That is fantastic.
You're welcome. I also know that these guys next to me are itching, or I guess Matt is itching to talk about the Giants. But let's first get through number 6, Oregon is at number 3, Penn State this Saturday for a 7:30 p.m. kickoff. I think college game day is going to be there. Do you have anything to add about this game?
I'll tell you, everybody's going to be there. Everybody's going to want to be there. It's the whiteout game. It's one of the biggest games of the season. And really for both teams, number 6 ranked Oregon, number 3 ranked Penn State, both of these teams have really explosive offenses. Oregon averaging 523 yards offensively a game. Penn State averaging 437 yards per game. The defenses, though, have been really good. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how these two defenses react to the big playability of both Penn State and Oregon, and to see how really throughout the game, whether it's the first quarter or the second quarter, just the first half in general, to see if one of these two teams could get that big explosive play to get the offense continue to be going, or if this is going to be a very heavy defensive game against two really good offenses.
And that's what I'm going to watch for in Oregon this game, because they've won a lot of their games so far by big margins. So that's why they have that 4-0 record so far this season. And with how high how ranked they've been, and coming into this game, I think you're going to try to see their offense be very explosive and try to open the playbook early, especially with how the crowd is going to be there. It's like Matt was just saying, it's the biggest game at Penn State hosts all year. So you're going to see Oregon try to get off to a hot start, and when Penn State gets their offense out there, Oregon's defense is going to have to step up right away. If they can't get stops, it's going to be a long night.
And then the Vikings and the Steelers play in Dublin, Ireland. What do we have there been games played in Ireland before?
Yes.
Okay.
There have. I will say I am not waking up early enough in the morning to watch this game, to be honest.
9 o'clock our time?
9
a.m.?
I believe it's a 9 a.m. kickoff. 9:30 kickoff. So I still probably not going to be up in time. But I will say this, like we talked about before with the Steelers, Aaron Rodgers has to get the ball going, or get the offense going a little bit. DK Metcalf has to get a little more involved. But for Minnesota, Justin Jefferson has not been off to the best start. Of course, he's not had the offensive production from his quarterback at J.J. McCarthy. But I think this Vikings team, their defense played phenomenal against Cincinnati, also who had a backup quarterback in. But for the Minnesota Vikings, not having J.J. McCarthy play these next couple of weeks, it gives Carson Wentz an opportunity to see what Carson Wentz can still do as a quarterback in the National Football League. I don't think he's going to go completely change this team around, but again, you're out without J.J. McCarthy, you're without Jordan Addison due to suspension, so again, not waking up at 9:30 in the morning for kickoff, but I will enjoy to see the highlights once this game is over, depending on if this score is not finished at 6-3.
Yeah, and this is going to be a vintage quarterback matchup from probably 10 years ago. Would have been much more competitive to what it is now, due to their age, of course, with Carson Wentz and Aaron Rodgers. So it'll be interesting to see that, of course, and even for me too, I will not be waking up that early in the morning to watch this game probably. But all the things we mentioned as well, I think in terms of the game for Minnesota, that's one thing they're going to rely on a lot in this game, especially with Pittsburgh's defense and how good that has been as well, and try to run through that, because in the receiving core, it's going to be a little more difficult as well with how Justin Jefferson's been playing this season. But if Carson Wentz can get him involved and get him more catches, that would be a positive thing on the offensive side of the ball for Minnesota. But this game can really go either way, I think, especially with how good both defenses play.
I could see Carson Wentz coming out and having a sneaky good game.
Absolutely.
And then finally with our PA teams, Eagles at Tampa Bay.
Again, I think this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, I said it last week, I think this is a really good football team. Again, another close game-winning drive by Baker Mayfield. But Mike Evans is going to be out. I believe it was the rest of the season he's going to be out for.
Oh, really?
So that's a big thing to watch for Tampa Bay. But expect Emeka Egbuka to step up even more than he already has. I mean, he has been absolutely phenomenal. He made an insane one-handed catch last week against the Jets. But just seeing how this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team responded after getting their field goal blocked against the Jets on Sunday, seeing the way that this team responded to that, it's not easy to it's like taking the momentum and giving it to the other team completely. That's exactly what happened in that game. But seeing the way that Tampa Bay responded, going down the field, getting the opportunity to kick the game-winning field goal. And for Chase McLaughlin to get the opportunity to get his revenge was always big. I think if Tampa Bay is going to win this football game, Bucky Irving's going to be a big part of it, and so is Emeka Egbuka. But I expect Saquon Barkley and the Philadelphia Eagles to win.
I was just going to mention Bucky Irving as well, of course, and that last drive, of course, against the Jets. But it was Baker Mayfield all the way, and the offense just led the way and got the revenge they wanted to get, like you just said, Matt. And they really did a lot of good things throughout that game, and the Jets really just weren't consistent enough, and that's what led to Tampa Bay's success. But for Philadelphia coming into this game, you have to imagine with how they played last year in Tampa Bay and how embarrassed they got, I think they're going to want to come in there and play a much better football game with a good run game and get the receivers involved again, get Devontae Smith going, get A.J. Brown going, and Saquon Barkley do his thing. And I think Philadelphia is going to go into Tampa Bay and get the revenge on the Bucs that they wanted to get last year.
If it's any consolation, I think Tampa Bay has some cooler names. Bucky Irving, Emeka Egbuka. Those are good. But now I will turn it over to Matt to speak your truth about the Giants' move this afternoon.
So I was hoping it wasn't going to be Jackson Dart to become QB1. Honestly, and I say this, I think the kid's going to be a phenomenal athlete in the NFL, but to bring him in this early in the year, I mean, you look at the schedule that they have coming up. You got the Chargers this week, then you got the Saints, which could be an easier matchup, but again, you never know. But then you got Philadelphia. The Chargers have been on an uproar of late. That team has been phenomenal. The Saints, really, you never know what Saints team you're going to get. But then you got Philadelphia. You're asking him to get hit a lot these next coming weeks. I would have liked to see Jameis Winston maybe get a shot in there. Yeah, you're going to get 4 touchdown passes maybe and 4 interceptions in the same game and 400 yards. But at least you have somebody who's got the experience, and you don't want to take away the confidence of Jackson Dart. You're going to be without Tyrone Tracy for a couple of weeks with the shoulder injury he suffered Sunday night against the Kansas City Chiefs. Cam Scatterbo continues to show why the Giants drafted him. He has been absolutely electric to watch. I'm going to get me a Cam Scatterbo jersey. I don't know when, but I'm going to get it eventually. I promise I will get it. But I just feel like it's a little too early to bring Jackson Dart in there because, again, you don't want to take the confidence away, and I feel like they're doing that by putting him in week 4. It's got to be a coaching decision. It's got to be a coaching change, in my opinion, because this Giants team has to figure it out on both sides of the ball, really. But we'll see what Jackson Dart can do on Sunday.
And with that, we will wrap up our show tonight, our second week of PA Pigskin Preview. Tonight we had the Shikellamy High School head coach, Mike Hoover, on, and then the Daily Item reporter, Todd Hummel. We rounded out with Rahshan La Mons, running back at Susquehanna. And then we had our roundtable. If you want to listen to more sports talk like we just did the last 15 minutes, you can tune in to Wednesday and Thursday